I think it started with my grandmother because growing up, she always had a garden. And so she always tried to grow things at home, and I watched her do that, and I did the same. I'm not really good at gardening, but it's just something that I enjoy. So I keep trying. It's trial and error, and I enjoy the whole process. My name is Claudia, and I'm married to Chris. We've been married for 21 years, and we have 2 biological children. David is 19, and Daniel is 14. And we just recently adopted a little girl, and her name is Ellie. You know, for many years when I had the dream of adopting, I wanted to adopt a little girl that kind of looked like us and that would fit into our family. But as we started walking through this journey and through education, you know, we noticed something change in our hearts too. We just noticed that adoption doesn't have to look like, you know, bringing a child into your home that looks kind of, and hope that she looks kind of like us and never tell her that she's adopted. But there is so much to be celebrated.
When one typically thinks of adoption, to hear someone say that there might be an injustice involved with that, I think on the surface seems a very odd way to think of it, because adoption is this loving act and a child's getting a chance at life. But I do think the way that the process has developed with the challenges that people go through to adopt children begin to raise this question of, well, is this really a just system? And the fact is there's money involved, a lot of money, and why should money be exchanging hands? Why should it cost to adopt a child? That's where I think these concerns about, is the system really fair, come up.
So when we started our adoption journey, we didn't really know a lot about the needs out there, and you know, we didn't know anything. But after we started presenting to cases, all of the situations that we saw were of babies who had been exposed to some kind of substance.
I think it is true. Like, we see a lot of families, and part of the home study process is families going through what they're open to. And so that's the gender of the child, the race of the child, special needs, medical conditions that they're open to, and then also drug and alcohol exposure that the baby would have had during the pregnancy.
It's just heartbreaking to come to the realization that that is the situation out there. And we were open to any race. We were open to substance exposure. There were, you know, sometimes when we see the medical information, when we receive a situation, there are things there that we don't even know what they are, you know, and we just had to just pray and submit that to the Lord.
That were named by God. John the Baptist was one. And we know that Jesus was named by God. He said, "You shall call his name Jesus."
In other words, I think sometimes we hold up this notion that all adoptive parents are perfect altruists, just willing to open up their home for anyone. And I think that is true in some cases, but it begins to take on a notion that somehow children are property, that we have a right to. And of course, if money is changing hands in this process, it can look very much like you're buying a child. And of course, if I'm buying a child, well, just like at Target, Walmart, I want to get a good value and I want to get what I want. I want to pick out the product I want. I think that can creep into this overall loving, altruistic action.
We've been brought up, our society has been brought up to say this is what's normal. And even the comments that you see, like I've seen people say, "Oh, she looks just like you. You're so lucky because she looks just like you." It's like our society is set up to kind of treat adoption as taboo. My grandmother taught me how to make pão de queijo when I was a teenager, when I was in middle school. And so I decided that I would try to sell PDQ, we call it PDQ, to help raise funds for adoption. And so I started producing it at home, and hours of preparing and kneading and rolling the balls and freezing them up. But we raised a good $1,000, I think. So this is something I wrote in my journal in March. Adoption involves tragedy and heartache. It is brokenness at its core. It is messy and ugly, tears and frustration, rejection and pain. No, it is acceptance, love, new life, hope, destiny and purpose. It is life-giving, love-affirming. Can my heart handle all of these at once? It is all of these at once, and it is overwhelming. I can't get through that without crying. You want me to try again without crying? That's not much of a story.
Sounds like a story to me.